a.m. We're here in the Bolcom building, and it's also being streamed online on YouTube. Mr. Cameron, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aguilera.
Present.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Present.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Present.
All commissioners are here and you have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll rise and state the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Play ball.
And commissioners, we have an agenda that was posted Monday morning. Do you have any changes you'd like to see the agenda, or should we proceed as posted?
Have no changes to suggest, Chairman.
Okay, seeing none, we will proceed with the meeting with the agenda that was posted Monday morning. Next up, public comment. I understand there's at least one person registered to provide public comment online. Before I turn it over to Mr. Rodriguez, I'd ask, is there anybody here that is in the room today that wants to provide public comment? Okay, so seeing none, Mr. Rodriguez, please take it away.
Actually, Mr. Chair, the person who signed up online is not online at the moment.
Okay, if you'll just ping me when that's available, we'll take the public comment when it can happen.
Okay.
Thank you. So next up is announcements. Anything from the Office of Chief of Staff?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Just a few announcements. Really excited to welcome Mr. John Farish, or JP, to our IT department. Excited to have him with us and helping us out. And also excited to announce that Agatha Malik has been hired to be our new division director of the new division of Technical Advisory Division. So this division, as you know, will be to support advisory staff in the technical fields. So congratulations to Agatha as well. And I'll have more updates for you at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
You thought Agatha might be here today, but on her first day in this new role, I sent her off to Little Rock, Arkansas. So hopefully she comes back with the weather that's going on out there. Next up, Office of General Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two things, one for me, and then I'm going to have Aaron Lecoq speak for a couple minutes. The first thing I wanted to mention for the viewing public and those who care is that and people planning ahead, our meeting in April, the first meeting in April, which is scheduled for April 3rd, Thursday, April 3rd. We're going to move that to Tuesday, April 1st. And that's because of the CREPC YRAB meeting. As we discussed earlier this morning, I don't exactly know what those acronyms mean, but I know that most, if not all, of the commissioners will be in attendance at that. And so that's going to disrupt that Thursday, April 3rd meeting. So again, April 3rd meeting will be on April 1st instead. And then
good morning, commissioners. I just have a quick update for you about the appeals and then kind of a status update. We received a summary affirmance in a case the city of Las Cruces had filed in October. And the city of Las Cruces filed for rehearing. The court had requested additional briefing on the issues that were brought up in the motion for rehearing, which we filed. And then on January 3rd, the court denied that motion. So the appeal is closed with the commission's order having been affirmed. And then currently, just where appeals are right now, we are currently waiting for one decision from the courts. We're waiting for two cases to be either set for oral argument or to have a decision come down. One appeal is stayed pending resolution of another matter, and then we have 2 appeals that were just recently filed. So we're in the record preparation and briefing stages of that. And that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner announcements, I like to highlight opportunities to participate in the work we do or watch what we're doing between now and our next public meeting. So there's a couple things. First, on January 15th, there's going to be a public comment session for P&M's ongoing rate case. That's docket number 24-00089 UT. We're going to do that in Albuquerque, and we'll start at 4:00 p.m. and run, scheduled to run through 7, try to give people opportunity to come after work. The location is the 811 Center. So that's at 1021 Eubank Boulevard Northeast. And it's also going to be online. So if you want to provide public comment in P&M's rate case and can't join us at the 811 Center, you can register and we'll be accepting comments via Zoom. So instructions on how to register so you can provide public comment there are on the commission's webpage. And we have a couple hearings scheduled. January 14th, case number 24-00247 UT. That's ZIA Natural Gas Energy Efficiency Program, scheduled to start at 9:30, and that'll be on Zoom and then or on YouTube. Zoom streamed onto YouTube. And then the other one is January 16th. That's case number 24-00255 UT, Bernalillo Solar Location Permit. And procedurally, those cases may be proceeding without issues in controversy. So the hearings may be canceled, or we might not have a hearing. But if you're interested in those cases, there are opportunities to watch the hearing online. If not, all the documents are also available on eDocket through the commission webpage. And I didn't have any other announcements beyond that. Commissioner Aguilera, did you have any?
Thank you, Chairman. No real announcements, just wanted to give my congratulations and sincere welcome to Commissioner Nybert. Really looking forward to working with you. And this is the first meeting of many, so welcome.
Nybert, would you like to make an announcement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly would be remiss if I did not recognize that 10 days ago, I got a call from the governor to appoint me, and the next 10 days unfolded, and I can tell you that I really appreciate yourself and Commissioner Aguilera in the welcome that you all have provided. I'd like to express my appreciation to Ms. Corey to try to begin to get me through the process and get me on board as quickly as possible, and Mr. Cameron and the general counsel staff trying to get me up to speed on some of the matters that are coming before us even this very day. And I've received a very warm welcome from staff and certainly appreciate everyone who has welcomed me with open arms, and I look forward to serving on this commission. The work that this commission does is vital to the future of New Mexico, and I know how important the work that we are going to be called to do is to the growth and providing opportunities for our children and grandchildren. So it's certainly an honor and a privilege to take my seat at this table and to work with you over the course of the next number of years. And I look forward to the challenges that are in front of us. I look forward to our collaboration in meeting those challenges and putting our state in a position to capitalize on the energy opportunities that are vast and are present within our state. And we need to capitalize on those. So I look forward to it and appreciate the welcome I've received from many of the stakeholders as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that. Next up, we have Employee of the Month. Commissioner Aguilera has the honor of announcing that.
Yes, indeed, it is my honor. So the PRC Employee of the Month for January 2025 is Aaron Lecoq. Aaron, I'm pausing for the applause. There we go. Erin is our appellate specialist. She is an excellent team member and a valuable asset to the Office of General Counsel and the agency overall, who handles the extremely complex appeals process efficiently and intelligently. By stepping into the new position of appellate specialist, Erin has allowed OGC attorneys to focus solely on their daily dockets while Erin manages the appeals that inevitably follow contentious proceedings. She also supports the commission and OGC by analyzing and mitigating the likelihood of an overturned order on appeal. Erin's expertise has improved the agency's standing in the Supreme Court. In addition to her usual job responsibilities, Erin helped launch and direct the commission's extern program. She mentors new OGC attorneys, bakes delicious holiday and birthday cakes, and she led the final phase of an important and complex community solar order, which we also have on today's docket. And so Erin's commitment to the agency and OGC is to be applauded, and this award is an acknowledgement of her efforts to ensure this agency succeeds. Thank you very much, Erin, for your work, and congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, last we saw the belt, Christopher Dunn was wearing it, so you may have to go to Las Cruces to get it, is what I'm afraid of. Congratulations. I've been informed that we do have our registered public comment available online now, so I will turn it over to Mr. Rodriguez and circle back to that item.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ona Porter, are you on Zoom right now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead with your comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ona Porter, and I'm the founder emerita and clean energy leader for Prosperity Works. It is in that capacity that I come before you today, as I have for more than 20 years on behalf of the limited income people and communities that we serve. The legislature intended the community solar program to benefit low-income New Mexico electric utility ratepayers by codifying that in legislation, where they required at least 30% of every project to be allocated to low-income consumers and the organizations that serve them. It is one of the few programs we have for those who can least afford to pay for the essential commodity of electricity. Please reaffirm that the community solar program is in the public interest and that subsidies are also in the public interest, because this program is essential to those who are most in need. Finally, I'd like to remind you of something that is often left out of these deliberations. We cannot meet our climate goals unless every policy and practice implemented has the needs of our most vulnerable household at its center. Thank you for your time and for your leadership.
Yeah, thank you for that. Does that conclude our public comments, Mr. Rodriguez?
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we'll resume with the agenda where we left off. So that's approval of prior meeting minutes. We have both draft minutes for the November 26, 2024 meeting in our package. I've reviewed those. I don't have any changes. Commissioner Aguilera, did you have anything you wanted to change on November 26th?
I do have one change that I would like to make for readability. So during the community solar docket, which was going long, we took a public comment and then took a break and then came back. And that public comment is kind of in between that entire discussion of the docket. And so I was just going to suggest creating a new heading so that a reader can tell that, you know, we took a break and then came back to the other docket just to make it clear. And I can propose some edits to that effect.
Yeah, I understand that concern. I agree. Commissioner Nybert, this preceded your time. Did you have any comments on that? Okay, so then I'll move that we adopt the minutes for November 26th with Commissioner Aguilera helping highlight the break in the meeting that preceded public comment.
I'll second.
Please call the vote, Mr. Cameron.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Aye.
The motion to approve the November 26, 2024 minutes as amended passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Next up, we have a consent action. There's only one item on that, one case. Commissioners, did you have any questions or discussion on the consent agenda? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question about the formal complaint. Is that what we're?
Yeah, we're looking at case 23-00299 UT. It's a formal complaint against CenturyLink.
My question really goes as to whether or not this should be dismissed for lack of prosecution and not for lack of jurisdiction. Because this commission took some action with respect to that matter, and there's been no prosecution, and so it seems to me that we ought to just dismiss it for lack of prosecution, because you ordered the respondent and the proponent to respond. They failed to respond, and so they're not doing anything with the case. So we could simply dismiss it for lack of prosecution, seems to me, and not get to the issue of jurisdiction, because we've already taken some action. Does that make sense, Mr. Cameron?
Yes, and Alyssa Herrera-Waldrop, who worked on the case, is here to talk about it as well. And I think my take on it is we're dismissing for lack of jurisdiction because that is something that is a reason that we can take that's in our rules. Dismissing for lack of prosecution is not specifically listed in our rules as a reason for dismissal. But I can take a look and see if there is some kind of more of a catch-all phrase for being able to do that, unless Alyssa knows that off the top of her head, and she might.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you. I don't know that at the top of my head, but my understanding is the same. And just to provide a little bit of clarity, my understanding is that there has been some changes in the telecommunications statutes. And so upon my review, when first looking at the case, there was some support that there was jurisdiction. And so my thought process was, I want to know what's going on in the case since there hasn't been any other filings. However, on further review and specifically looking at section 63-9A-5B2, I know you can memorize that, so that's why I said it. It's cited there. It looks like there is no jurisdiction for us or for the commission to decide on the matter at all. And my understanding too is that a consumer complaint can be dismissed at any time for lack of jurisdiction. So that's the reason we went this way with this one.
I guess my question would be, why did it take 1.5 years to determine we didn't have jurisdiction? I mean, it seems to me we just dismissed for lack of prosecution and not even worry about those issues.
I understand. I think, again, I can look to see if, like Scott mentioned or Mr. Cameron mentioned, we can look to see if there's any other catch-all phrase for
I guess dismissing for that reason, but I don't think there is anything explicitly saying we can dismiss for lack of prosecution. And after looking at this case again and determining there was no jurisdiction is the reason we're dismissing it.
But Mr. Chair, the commission ordered responses. They received no responses. Surely there's some mechanism to deal with the failure of parties to continue their action or to comply with orders of this commission. I mean, we have to have some ability to enforce orders that we prescribe. And if parties don't do what they're asked to do, we ought to have some mechanism to deal with that.
I'd be happy to look into that for you, Mr. Commissioner. I just don't have an answer right now. My understanding was that one of the ways to dismiss is for lack of jurisdiction, and it made sense for this case. I understand your concern though, and I'd be happy to research more into it and see if there's something in the rules or the statute that allows for that.
Yeah, so I guess my question is there a deadline that requires us to act on this today?
My understanding of consumer complaints is there's no statutory deadline. I know our goal is to make sure to look at these cases and get them resolved. But there is no statutory or rule deadline that I know of that would require us to decide on it today.
Okay, so you'd be okay with just deferring this to next meeting?
If that's what the commissioners would like, and as long as there's no statutory issue, which I don't believe there is, then I have no problem with that.
Okay. And then I guess the practice on deferrals, if it's on the agenda, we just dies for a lack of a motion and then it shows up again in 2 weeks, right? So,
That's right, Mr. Chair.
okay. So anyway, that's the course I'm planning to take if somebody wants to be a little more hands-on with that. Who to defer it, we can do that too. But okay. All right, I appreciate that, Ms. Waldrop, and great questions, Commissioner Nybert. I have what I think are the answers to those questions, but I'm not a lawyer, so I wasn't going to try. But so looking forward to seeing how this progresses in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next up is the regular action agenda. We have 3 cases. All of them involve presentations from Mr. Fisk from Office of General Counsel. The first 2 are related to the community solar phase 2 tariff implementation. So I'll just turn the floor over to Mr. Fisk and take it away.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Since we have all talked about this order quite a bit this week, I won't give a lengthy introduction or presentation. We can get right to any questions.
I just want to confirm that the order we're talking about is the first one that's on the agenda here, which is the motions for rehearing, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And but I do want to ask if the commissioners, if every one of you saw, I did send yet another revised version this morning at 8 a.m. Are we working from that? Okay, good. Okay, so I'll just describe generally what the order is about. Of course, the commission on November 26th issued its phase 2 final order in this matter concerning the tariffs, agreements, and forms proposed by the 3 qualifying utilities for use in the community solar program. And we received, in December, we received motions for rehearing from El Paso Electric Company, EPE, and Southwestern Public Service Company, SPS, and a joint motion for reconsideration and clarification from the Coalition for Community Solar Access, the Renewable Energy Industries Association of New Mexico, and new energy economy. So the order that I have proposed would would partially grant, I'm sorry, EPE's motion, would deny SPS's motion, and will partially grant the motion of the joint motion. I now refer to those parties as the joint parties, as they are referred to in the order. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Commissioner Aguilera, did you have any questions? I've got one.
No, I don't have any questions. I note that for one of these issues, there is an alternate version, so we should talk about that.
That was my question also.
Okay. Well, Mr. Fisk, this is the clarification on requested on paragraph 22. Would you mind just providing some brief background on that so that we can then talk about it?
Yes. So in the joint parties motion, they requested a clarification with regard to ordering paragraph 22 of the final order. And the clarification they asked for was to switch out the phrase that's in paragraph 22, which is calculation of the credit, with the language methodology to calculate the credit. They argued that the paragraph as is could be interpreted to mean that there can be no changes to the first, the already approved projects, the first 200 megawatts of projects, the first tranche of projects. They interpreted that paragraph as possibly leading someone to believe that no changes could be made, whereas there are changes that can be made to the credit. It wouldn't be changes to the methodology that's adopted in the final order, but it would be changes that arise as new as costs and rates are updated in future rate cases. So those changes will be made, but they would go into the same methodology in the same formula that we have come up with in that the commission adopted in the final order. And so you can go either way on that. You could say, in my opinion, that it's not needed to clarify this particular issue, because what that paragraph says actually is that no change that the commission makes in the pending rulemaking will apply to the first 200 megawatts. So it's clear that I think it's clear that other kinds of changes might affect the calculation. But I also see where the joint parties are coming from, in that they want to clarify methodologies, what we're talking about, not calculation, not the numbers that go into the credit. So I think the clarification is fine. But I think it's clear enough as it is too. Either way, it's fine. It's not really a matter of law.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. So this sentence at issue is one that was added in real time during our last meeting. And so I think what I understood the intent to be is that we wanted to provide certainty to the community solar program developers and subscribers that that they have a certain methodology that they can count on. And I thought that the edits that the joint parties were proposing here made sense. And so I didn't have any concern with adopting those changes. And I think because there is a little bit of ambiguity, this alternate version explains that paragraph 22 is not ambiguous and no clarification is needed, but then goes on to provide a clarification. And so I think that in itself just kind of shows that there is some clarification needed. And to me, either adopting the revisions that the joint parties have proposed or providing the clarification that is being provided in this alternate paragraph, both are sufficient, because I think they both explain what the joint parties want, is that to know that the rulemaking is not going to change the methodology. The calculation might change based on, and by calculation, I think of it more as like the results, what the credit is, might change just based on the inputs to the methodology.
Correct.
And so I think, I would suggest either adopting the joint parties proposal or adopting something that is close to what is in paragraph 79 currently, except for that first sentence that says that the language is not ambiguous.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for me, because I needed to hear that it wasn't a point of law, so then it becomes about what's the clearest instructions we can do it. And, I think you stated very well the history and how we got to where we're at, so. Again, for me, the premium of this discussion is just trying to make sure the communication is clear. And basically, yeah, we've approved a method, but the method includes elements that change over time, so the method results in a number that does change. So how best to say that? So anyway, Commissioner Aguilar, are you proposing that we use a version of the clarification that preceded the alternate, or are you okay with that first proposal, or would you like to edit the first proposal? It sounds like alternative isn't desired, just because I get your I agree with your point that needs no clarification, but here's a clarification is confusing.
Yeah, so my suggestion is, and sorry, I have to, it's blue blue font on a red background, and
I was running out of colors.
So I would just suggest deleting that first sentence that says that the commission finds that paragraph 22 is not ambiguous and thus no clarification is needed, and replace that with something that says that the commission is providing clarification, and the rest of the paragraph provides that clarification. So it would just be replacing that first sentence. And then obviously deleting the competing paragraph 78.
So just to repeat what I heard to make sure we've communicated here, we're not going to use the first version of paragraph 78. And we think that we'll communicate what needs to be communicated by replacing the first sentence in the alternative with the commission provides clarification here. And then let it take off from there with what was already proposed.
Yes, Chairman, that was my suggestion.
Okay, and did that make sense to you, Mr. Fisk?
Yes.
Okay. Any other things you'd like to work through, or questions or comments, Commissioner Aguilera?
I don't think, so I don't have any questions. Kind of feel that maybe we should just talk about some of these just to provide context. But I don't have any questions, Chairman.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be worth it to discuss some of these, and just, we had a public comment about the, one of the issues on this thing is whether subsidization is in public interest or not. We're just, in responding to the motions we've had, we're leaving that open for the future. So we're not saying it's not. I'm still very much open to the concept that it may be, but first, we've got to take things one step at a time. Getting these tariffs in place so the program can proceed, I think is the step that we were trying to achieve in November. And I think the draft that we're discussing today helps with that. Let's take the next step that allows things to move forward. And then the subsidy issue is really more what is a result of this step rather than get in front of it. So anyway, that's my feeling there. Again, nothing in here. Don't read this to mean I don't believe it isn't. I think it's possible it is.
Well, yeah, thank you for saying that. I agree. I think because we're not making a finding here that, at least, from my perspective, because we're not making a finding here that a subsidy is in the public interest or not, I don't, that doesn't rule it out. One of the other parts on rehearing is this idea that the avoided costs should not be tracked. I think that it's necessary to track those avoided costs because it is determining what the benefit is of these projects. I think it's quite possible that there is no subsidy. And if there is no subsidy, then why would we need to make a finding that a subsidy is in the public interest? And so that's kind of where I'm coming from that. I think that the law is trying to get to a point where a subsidy is not being provided. I think the law is doesn't want a subsidy unless it's needed. In a situation where a subsidy is needed to make the program work and to give life to this act, I certainly would consider that. But again, as you explained, Chairman, I'm on the same page as you, as that not making that determination here does not mean that it is not in the public interest.
And then just broadly, this has been proven to be a complicated issue, and I just wanted to express appreciation, frankly, for these motions for rehearing, because it gives us another opportunity to clarify things that I thought might have been clear, but maybe they weren't. So appreciate the parties raising the issues they did here, because again, for me, the premium is acting so that things can proceed, and things will proceed if they're well understood. So that's my concept. So I know that's kind of a weird position to be thanking people for a motion for rehearing, but that's where I'm at with this case and these motions.
Yeah, and then the last thing that I would like to mention on this is that I read some of these, at least parts of these rehearing request arguments, as suggesting that the utilities might not be recovering certain costs. So for example, as the one-time startup cost. I don't think that's the case, and I don't think that should be the case for, you know, any prudent investments. The utility should definitely be recovering their costs. So I think the issue really is how those costs are being recovered. And that's one thing that we, you know, began to, well, actually did not answer in the final rule, but again, that does not mean that the cost cannot be recovered. So how they're recovered, I think we're leaving to a later time.
I agree with that. And, you know, I even caused me to think about, well, attending meetings and hiring lawyers is just part of the deal of being a regulated utility. So asking for special recovery on things that to me felt like just costs of doing business was an interesting question to think through. But I agree with you. We're not similar to public interest determination. We're not saying these costs are not recoverable. We're just saying on balance, some things is part of the package of tariffs and riders with community solar. Other things are better for things like general rate cases, and we'll sort through that when we get there. And another reason to do that is some of these things like buying a piece of software, I want to ensure there's cost discipline on that. So base rates is a better incentive to have people making good choices in the equipment that they're buying. So that's where my thought process is. It's not a determination, as you'll see when you get this order. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, just to follow up on what you said, if my limited understanding is that if some of those costs are then recaptured in a general rate case, then those costs are borne by all customers of the utility. And so is not the real issue whether the subscribers or the developers are going to end up paying those costs, or are those costs going to be paid by the customers generally of the utility? And so that's in my mind, that's the dilemma that we appear to be in. And unfortunately, I don't have the basis. I don't have all the other documents to make much of a cogent argument, but it seems to me that that's the question that's really before us. Does the developer and the subscribers pay for some of these additional costs that the utility is incurring, or are you just simply going to allow the utility to recover those costs from the general customers of that utility?
You summarized the dilemma quite well there. And the big picture is utilities are subject to lots of laws. And so some laws, the implementing the law will create costs that are specific only to the people who choose to take advantage of that new law. But then there's other things that are just needed for course of general business. And we've seen some examples of that in this community solar thing where the argument was, oh, we're going to have to go buy something bespoke just for this. But oh, by the way, very few people are going to need this bespoke thing I'm buying. So my experience working in utilities, they're not going to buy that bespoke thing unless I tell them they get elite cost recovery for it. Instead, they'll figure out a more efficient, better way to do it. So that's really where my thought process is leading me to. This is a good response to those motions for rehearing. It's not, there is no bright line. There is, and it's a case by case kind of thing. So, but yeah, you summarized the dilemma quite well.
Yeah, and I agree that is really what it comes down to. And I think having more information will put us in a better position to make the decision that is fairest for everybody. You know, in looking, for example, at the subsidy, you know, SPS made what I thought was a good point when they explained that the purpose of the subsidization allowed by the Community Solar Act is not to finance or provide a financial benefit to unregulated developers. I think that that resonates with me. It is, and that's why it is difficult for us here now to make these final determinations, because we don't have the information. I think we'll be in a better position to make that decision when we have the information.
Mr. Chairman, in that regard, this only applies to the first 200 megawatts. I suspect that as we have some experience with respect to that issue, then there may be some experience developed that allows us to make more accurate or maybe more precise decisions as if this program expands to deal with those issues in the future. We're not preempting those issues in the future by taking these actions. These actions are specific to the first 200 megawatts. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, that was one of the arguments in the responses is don't prevent the opportunity to learn in the future. Any other discussion, questions for Mr. Fisk?
Nothing for me, Chair.
Okay, so then I will move to adopt the order proposed in this case with the modification of what's currently numbered paragraph 70s 8 and 9 that we discussed today.
Which paragraphs did you say, Chairman? I just want to.
Well, there's a 78 that frankly is getting deleted.
Yeah.
And then there's a 79, which then becomes 78.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I didn't know what number to pick.
Yes. I think we're on the same page, and I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any more discussion before we vote? Then I'll ask Mr. Cameron call a roll.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Aye.
Commissioner Nyberg?
Mr. Chair, on this issue, despite my best efforts and the best efforts of the staff, I've discussed this matter with General Counsel, and Mr. Fisk spent significant time with me yesterday trying to bring me up to speed on this. Quite frankly, the issue is very complex. The order that's before us references many materials that I don't know how to get access to, and probably wouldn't have the time to read it all. I understand it's quite a voluminous set of materials, so I find myself unable to cast a vote with sufficient knowledge. So I would abstain from this vote. I do want to make it clear that I'm hopeful to be up to speed quickly so that this doesn't occur frequently. But I also need to point out, and I think the material that I've read requires me to divulge any personal conflicts of interest. And 10 days ago, I was a member of the Hinkle Law Firm. One of the lawyers for this matter is a partner in the Hinkle Law Firm. And I need to divulge that fact. That's not why I'm abstaining today. My relationship with that lawyer and frankly with our office in Santa Fe was very slight. And I want everyone to know I've not worked on any matters that would come before the commission. I've not had any personal relationship with those matters. And I don't feel that that would be a reason to abstain, but it's because my lack of an ability to cast an informed vote leads me to that conclusion today. So I would appreciate your taking that abstention, and I'll promise you that we will work to get up to speed on the matters that come before us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I understand that on a personal level. So thank you, Commissioner. So Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the vote is 2 in favor, 1 abstention. And the vote again is on the first 23-00071 UT to adopt the order as amended to paragraph 70 something, which I trust Mr. Fisk will do. So again, the vote is 2 in favor, 1 abstention, and it passes.
Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Fisk. Next up is the same case, but it's an issue of a motion for variance from El Paso Electric.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. One of the things that was required of the 3 qualifying utilities in the final order that was issued on November 26th was that they file their proposed tariffs for a solar bill credit tariff and also administrative cost rider tariff on or before December 11th. And PNM and SPS filed both of those. EPE filed their solar bill credit proposed tariff. They did not file their administrative cost rider tariff on that date. Instead, they filed the day before a motion asking for more time to file the administrative cost rider proposed tariff. They requested an extension from that date, December 11th, to February 28th. They cited the fact that that there were estimates of administrative costs. No, because no administrative costs have actually been incurred at this point, this stage of the program. So we required estimates from all 3. And they said it would take some time to develop reasonable, detailed cost estimates. They also cited the fact that there are intervening holidays and having people out of the office. This motion was opposed by, I believe it's the same 3 joint parties that filed the joint motion that we just discussed in this matter. Yes, Coalition for Clean Affordable Energy, Renewable Energy Industries Association, and New Energy Economy. Yes, they opposed it, and they said that first they gave 2 alternatives for what they would like to see. One that it would just be denied. Well, in effect, they already have an extension because December 11th was the date it was due, and they haven't filed yet. But the other option, they said, just extend it to January 15th, because there's no reason that they would need, that EPE would need until February 28th. And that, this is needed to go forward with the next phase of the program, which is soliciting potential subscribers and building projects. So what I have recommended, and this is very much within the commission's discretion. This is not what I have recommended, is not required as a matter of law. But I recommend going with the January 15th date. I personally don't see why they need until February 28th to make these estimates. And neither of the other utilities did. And then this would also set a date for staff and any other parties. Staff must, and any other parties may file responses to those tariffs. That's how we had the original, tariffs are set up. There was a time for December 11th was a filing date for the tariffs, and January 8th, there's a filing date for responses by staff, et cetera. And so if this date is moved for EP to file its administrative cost share tariff, we also need to move the date for any responses. So that would be January 27th. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Fisk. I understand the logic of what you've put in front of us today, and then just observe that, this motion for variance was filed like very early on in the filings we've seen over the last few weeks, and more information has been put on the table since then. So to your point, examples of how EPE could achieve what it is we've asked them to do are out there. So I thank you for your recommendation, and January 15th seems like a reasonable date to me. So thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Commissioner Nyberg.
Mr. Chair, I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Fisk about this particular order, and I certainly do not believe that giving additional time does the things that are being advanced, such as a more robust process, or allows stakeholders to share a better base of knowledge about the process and substance. I don't think extending deadlines actually result in that. It just allows people to put things off for a longer period of time. But since it doesn't affect the overall time schedule, as I understand it, I'm not going to oppose it, but I just don't buy the argument that's being made. It's not going to result in those things in my mind. It's just going to give them more time.
Commissioner Nyberg, may I respond to that?
Yes, sir.
I believe you may actually be thinking there are two orders on the agenda that concern an extension of time. And I believe that the one you're talking about is the one we're going to deal with next.
Oh, okay.
24 through 60. That's the one about, that's also by EPE. There are two EPE motions for extensions here. And this one is just to extend their time to file their administrative cost tariff as per the final order November 26th. The other case concerns EPE's perspective, integrated resource planning filing. So we're going to deal with that next.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you for that presentation, Mr. Fisk. And just to kind of frame this into the structure of our rules, petition for variance has 5 criteria, and one of them is to the fifth one, the last one, is to describe how the proposed alternative will achieve the purpose of the rule and why it is in the public interest. And that criterion is the one that this order finds was not met by the variance. But it finds that the date proposed by the joint parties would meet that criterion.
Just Commissioner Aguilar, actually, the way this is drafted, it's the 5th criterion. I think what you mentioned, the 4th criterion, which is how it served the purpose of the rule. But the order that I have the revised order cites the 5th.
Yeah, I agree that it's the 5th. Maybe I misspoke and said 4th. If I did, I meant 5th. But I also think that the 4th could have been one that we could have discussed here. But yes, okay, 5th criterion.
Okay, so any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I will move for adoption of this order addressing El Paso's verified motion for variance.
Second.
Any discussion or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, please call roll.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Yes.
The motion to approve the order in regular action item agenda number 2, 230071 UT passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Then finally, Mr. Fisk, as you have already alluded to, EPE's integrated resource plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So EPE has filed its notice of intent. That was a few months ago in October to file an integrated resource plan. The commission's recently amended integrated resource plan, or IRP rule, requires the filing of a notice of intent and the service of that notice upon various parties and also members of the public by newspaper publication. The commission granted what was filed with the notice of intent was a request that GridWorks be selected as the stakeholder process facilitator. The commission has already granted that, and the EPE has argued in its in this particular motion for a variance, that it be allowed to have a longer stakeholder process. The rule actually has specific dates for the filings of the IRPs by the 3 utilities. And for EPE, it's September 1st, 2025. And they want, EPE wants all that time, but that's more than 6 months away. As of the beginning of this month, it would have been 8 months. So they're asking for an extension of the 6-month period that's set in the rule for the stakeholder process, so they can start that soon and then file on the same date that the rule requires. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I apologize for confusing the 2 matters, but my statements earlier would apply to this case, and so
Thank you. Then this new IRP rule set the 6-month period. No utilities really succeeded in using that 6-month period. And personally, I like that if this is a period of time for the utility to work with people who are interested in what they're doing. So I'm in favor with extending this stakeholder period for what it takes for them to work out issues with stakeholders. So then hopefully we get a better plan that's got less contested issues in it. So anyway, that I totally and wholeheartedly agree with your observation that sometimes more time is just more time. This one is a window that a formal window for utilities to work with stakeholders on IRPs. And then my question was, why was this on regular? Because it's not very controversial in my point of view, but I think the value of having it on regular is just highlighting that an IRP public advisory window is opening soon. So anybody that's interested in EPE's IRP, it's a coming. Did you have anything on this one?
Thank you for both of your comments. I don't have anything to add.
Then I'll go ahead and move for adoption of this order.
Second.
Mr. Cameron?
Commissioner Nyberg,
yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye.
Commissioner Aguilera.
Aye.
The motion to approve the order in regular agenda item number 3, 24-00260-UT passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Okay, so we're going to move to a couple discussion items, starting with Ms. Mascarenas to talk about the FY 2024 audit. Apparently we didn't pay the gas bill. It is cold in here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I do apologize to you all and to those in the audience for the cold room. I am working on that in the background. So today I am here to present to you the results of our fiscal year 24 audit. I know we're a little later than last year in bringing this to the Commissioners. We did in fact submit our audit timely at the end of October to the Office of the State Auditor, but unfortunately we did not get our release letter until right before Christmas, but it was a nice Christmas present. The audit was a clean audit. We did receive an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can receive. There was no deficiencies identified, no material weaknesses. And I'm happy to say that we had 0 audit findings for the second year in a row. So I do want to commend not only my staff and ASD in ensuring the processes are followed, but everyone within the agency, because it is showing that even though sometimes the processes can be a little cumbersome and take a little longer than we would like, we are ensuring that the controls are being followed and things are being done in accordance with our policies and procedures. So thank you to everyone in the agency for ensuring that we continue to follow those processes. A couple things I did want to point out to the Commission. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to read our audit yet, but I did want to point out we did see an increase in total assets from fiscal year to 23 to 24. That primarily is due to the special appropriations we received in fiscal year 24. That's the cash balance that's sitting there for those appropriations that we do plan to expend this year, and a couple of them that we are requesting extensions on to then expend into fiscal year 26. But that's why if you do notice, there is that significant increase in cash. I also want to point out we did have a decrease in our total liabilities. That primarily is due to a decrease in the lease liability. Another year has passed, so we were able to pay down that liability for another year, and we'll continue to see those decrease with the lease liability. We did have to amortize 2 copiers that we did enter into a new lease agreement for fiscal year 24. I did also want to point out that we did receive a decrease in program revenues from fiscal year 23 to 24. That primarily is due to community solar. The solar application fees were received primarily in fiscal year 23, so we had a big influx in those fees, and we didn't receive very many in fiscal year 24. So that is the big reason for that decrease. Lastly, the one thing I want to point out is the reversion. I believe we sort of touched base with this when I presented the budget request, but I also wanted to point it out again to you all as a reminder. So the audit report does reflect a reversion of $430,000. That was primarily reversion from the supplemental that we received in fiscal year 24. If you all recall, we did have to request a supplemental for our salaries and benefits. We did not utilize all of it, and we had to revert 300,000 of that related to that portion of the budget. We only reverted 100,000 from our base budget, so I think we continue to chip away at that reversion and ensure we're expending all of our monies, and we're planning accordingly. And I'm confident we will be able to expend our budget this year and have we will have there's slight reversions related to special appropriations and such, but I think we'll get the general fund reversion for our base budget requests down we'll be able to expend that down pretty well. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, and really commend you and your team for the work you've done 2 years in a row. Versus the history of this agency is remarkable, and maybe even better that you got it 2 years in a row, because that shows that last year wasn't a one-off, that your work's really working. And so again, thanks to you, and then just recognition that success on the audit requires the whole village. So it's not just you. I'm glad that the whole agency's meeting the standards we need to meet to get a clean audit report. So thank you. Commissioners, did you have any?
Just share in those comments and, I thank all of the staff here for doing their part, and especially you and your team, Ms. Mascarenas, you guys are doing an excellent job. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in July, when someone mentioned to me that I should seek this appointment, my first words were, "You're absolutely crazy. This is not a place that I thought that I wanted to be." And they said, "No, no, no, things are changing." And frankly, it's because of the work that the two of you have done, and Ms. Corey and the entire staff. And I think that this audit, as I went over it with Miranda earlier, shows the strides that have been made within this agency to bring it to a professional organization and to be accountable not only to this commission, but be accountable to the citizens of New Mexico. And so that was some of the excitement for me, and my desire to seek the appointment to this position was because of the work that had been done the past couple of years to right frankly, a sinking ship. And having been on the other side of town talking about this commission as it existed previously, there was great concern as to whether or not this body would even survive as an entity. But I want to thank you all and all of the staff for the hard work and trying to restore the professionalism and the confidence that the citizens have to have in this commission as we do the important work for the citizens. So thank you very much, and thank you for the report. Thank you for going over the audit with me, and a clean audit is always a good thing for a commission to hear. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have a presentation on the upcoming legislative session. Jerry Marez.
Good morning, commissioners. Happy New Year. So I'm just gonna, just give a brief overview. At our August 22nd open meeting in Farmington, you all voted to support the policy measures that would take the work of the PRC to the next level in terms of compliance, efficiency, and efficacy. And so those were the Public Regulation Commission Act. We have some cleanup language in there. We also increased, well, we didn't increase it, but right now, but we're aligning the pipeline safety penalty fee cap with that of federal standards. And then the third one was creating the utility oversight fund primarily as a mechanism to self-fund the work of the PRC. So 2 of those bills have been pre-filed and they're on the Senate website. They don't actually have a bill number. The Senate does things differently and they just have a document number. But I'm going to be providing all 3 of those to all of you through email. Currently, pre-filing has started. And so we will be monitoring all legislation that pertains to the work of the PRC very closely. We will continue to have our meeting updates that to share what's happening. So next steps for me is I will be attending the legislative training at it's virtual, but it is for all agencies just to keep informed of any changes in the process at the Legislative Council service, or to see if we have everything in place to prepare for opening day. The next thing is we're going to have interagency training. I am holding next week for staff that will be involved in bill analyses, and just keep them knowledgeable about what our process is going to be, and just keep that communication open. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, do we have any questions?
Mr. Chair, not any questions. I just want to offer to whatever talents and abilities I have in this regard, please feel free to enlist me into service. I realize I have maybe some unique relationships that we could exploit. So I just offer my services to you and to Ms. Mars and the staff.
Thank you. It just, things can get confusing with individual commissioners not being the commission. So thank you for that offer. We should take you up on that offer. Just want to make sure it's clear that we have delegated the mechanics of how to make that work to Office of Chief of Staff and Ms. Mars. So I won't be telling you to get over there, but she will. So long story short.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I really appreciate the expertise and relationships that you're bringing to us. You know, one concern that I heard about the past is that one commissioner would come to the legislature with a preference for something, and then another one would come with another preference, and you know, the legislature's like, who do I believe here? So I really want to thank Ms. Morris and Ms. Corey for making sure that we're on the same page. I think that you know, having you to speak for the commission ensures that we are speaking with one voice and not confusing legislators. And so thank you, and you know, thank you for your work in keeping track of all of these endeavors that are ongoing, which I'm sure is well, you're going to be very busy, so thank you ahead of time also.
Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate it. And that's exactly why we'll be having interagency training to just go over policies and procedures and to ensure we're all on the same page. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Next up, we have a discussion and potential action item. Bring Ms. Mascarenas back. Disposal of capital assets. Hopefully we can get the picture on the screen. Like, what the heck is that?
Exactly. We could take a field trip. Hello again, commissioners. So I'm going to take off my fiscal year 24 hat and put on my fiscal year 25 hat. In front of you is a request for the commission to approve the disposal of a network switch that the commission purchased back in 2009 for $73,500. This item is fully depreciated. It still resides in the PERA building where we were previously housed as an agency. It has not been in use. I don't know when the last time it was in use. Our IT director, Brian Wood, did go over. He looked at the item. He does not think it is that we have any benefit from it. He does not really think it's in workable condition for the agency. I also reached out to GSD as part of the disposal process. GSD has refused to take this item as well. So our next step in the process would be to obtain approval from the commission to dispose, notify the state auditor, and then we will dispose of the item, and it will be written off of our books for fiscal year 25. I'm not sure if you have any questions. I will do my best to answer them. I know you all do have a picture in your packet of what the item does look like in its current state.
Yeah, thank you. It looks like something I don't want. Any questions or discussion?
I think for me.
Then I'll move that we approve disposal of the very old network switch.
Second.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Hi.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Yes.
The motion to approve the proposal to dispose of the capital asset passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Cameron, we talked about this a bit at the last meeting in December, working through items that have to be done annually, have to be done first of the year, and it felt like we landed on there's one thing to keep current, and that's the OMA resolution. So take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have been through a few iterations of this since the last time we discussed it. The most recent one was sent to the commissioners late yesterday. I think you've got that version in front of you because I do. I'd be happy to walk through it or take questions. What's the preference of the chair of the commission?
I understand it, and I really appreciate the work that's gone into it. And Commissioner Nybert, I think, has helped make it better too. So that's great. My standard on this is I just want an open meeting policy. That means we don't have to cancel a meeting because it's cold outside. So not being a lawyer, I'm trusting the lawyers here that this is in good shape. So I didn't have any questions, discussion.
Okay. And just in general, some of it is cleanup language. A couple of things are, it wasn't quite clear on how we were actually practicing our Open Meetings Act notices and things like that, were some of the changes. One in particular, it used to refer to the Attorney General's office. Now it's the New Mexico Department of Justice. Things like that had happened over the year that we needed to change. But substantively, there's not a lot that's been modified.
Mr. Chair, the only comment I have is I talked to Mr. Cameron yesterday about this. Originally, we had two resolutions that had the same number, and oftentimes this resolution number has today's date. If we have more than one, then you obviously don't want two resolutions with the same number. And I suggested maybe a different formatting for resolutions. We might want to think about that in the future. So, you could use 2025-1 or 2025- today's date and then -1 or whatever. But if we have more than one resolution at a meeting, we're going to have to tackle that issue if we continue to do this. And then I want to thank Mr. Cameron for listening to me and maybe making the changes I suggested. The only question that I have is in paragraph 4. And maybe we don't need to do this, but the last the blue highlight at the end of paragraph 4 basically says that after an emergency at the next meeting, we're going to highlight that we had that emergency meeting. My question is there any requirement to ratify actions taken during an emergency meeting so that it's in front of the public at that point? And if there's a requirement to ratify it, then we probably need to show that we're going to ratify it. If there's not, then I think it's fine as is.
Yeah, that's a good question, Commissioner. Thank you. And to the best of my knowledge, there is no requirement in OMA for that. I think that is, while it doesn't call it the same thing, ratifying the actions taken, I think that's the purpose of the previous sentence that talks about within 10 days of acting on emergency matters, the New Mexico Department of Justice has to be notified. I think that is taken directly from the Open Meetings Act, and I think that's the purpose of that.
Thank you for the revisions here. It seems like there really is no substantive change except for updating things that need to be updated, as you mentioned, Department of Justice instead of Attorneys General. And I appreciate the edits that were made to make this read better. I think they've improved the resolution. So thank you for those.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. There is one other change in paragraph 4, and I forgot to mention it earlier. it doesn't look like the number 24 was deleted in the 6th or 7th line down. And I think that needs to be deleted.
I'll do that. And I just wanted to mention that Commissioner Nybert, we discussed yesterday and he proposed some changes to this, which I thought were somewhat out of the ordinary for an attorney, where he actually made it less words. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, this document's a beast that was created 10 years ago. I find it hard to edit things that already exist, but it's getting better. So anyway, I'll go ahead and move that we adopt open meeting policy for this year with the changes to the draft that were discussed at the meeting.
Second.
Aaron?
Commissioner Nybert,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera.
Aye.
The motion to adopt the 2025 Open Meetings Act resolution with the changes discussed passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Next up is communication with Chief of Staff. Ms. Corey, did you have any items?
Good morning again, commissioners. Just a couple of items. I always love it when there's a lot of information presented during these from staff. So that means I don't have to talk much, which apparently I'm incapable of this morning. There are a couple of things that I wanted to raise to your attention, more exciting movements within the agency. At the last meeting, I indicated that staff members were moving around and finding exciting new positions. I introduced some new staff members this morning, or newly created positions. I also wanted to recognize that Naomi Vasquez has moved to a senior public utility economist in the utility division. So congratulations to Naomi. And also Judith Amer, who is formerly Commissioner Ellison's advisor, has at her request become a member of our legal division. So we're excited for Judy to join us in the advocacy side of the agency. And for those of you that might be worried, we've talked about potential conflicts, and Judy and our legal team are fully aware of that. So watch for her to take a role in the advocacy side of things. One other update that I wanted to provide is we are working through massive bureaucracy in making our e-docket replacement a reality. We are currently working to finalize the contract, get the funding earmarked and in place, and working with DOIT, Department of Information Technology, and the EPMO, which is, I don't know what that stands for. It's an office or a division in DOIT to make that happen. So we're excited to be moving forward, although maybe not quite at the pace that we were hoping, but we are moving forward. E-docket is going to be replaced. We are bringing this agency into the 21st century. So watch for more updates as we work through that process. I do want to commend the team that has been working on the RFP, led and marshaled by Lori in our finance division. Thank you, Lori, for driving this process forward. And Brian Wood, our IT director. We were approved by the PCC, which is another acronym that I don't quite know, but it's in DOIT, and they have to approve it. They approved our request to release 1.7 million of our money to use on the e-docket replacement. So things are happening, and we're excited about that progress. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Chief of Staff? Nope. Happy New Year. Next up is communications with commissioners. Commissioners, did you have anything to share for the good of the order?
Thank you for a good first meeting, Commissioner Nybert. Really happy to have you here. And like I said earlier, looking forward to many more of these. In terms of any communication, so talk to Megan Decker, who is the chair of the Oregon Commission, about transitioning to co-chair of the PREPC. I'm starting to get included in emails for that, and we'll transition officially during the next NARUC meeting, which is going to be in Washington, DC. And Commissioner Nybert, so this is just, one of the regional, programs and conferences that we have. Really good conferences. And I was asked if I was interested in co-chairing that. And part of me kind of wanted to say no, because those are some of the best conferences in the West, and I was afraid that I would somehow screw it up. But there's a lot of help, and so anyway, that's one of the things that I'll be doing going forward. I think that's the only update I have for now.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Commissioner Ellison was doing some important things in some of these regional groups, and I think it's important for New Mexico to have a voice in those things. So part of your fire hose experience, at some point, we should just check in on our individual portfolios and try to readjust and make sure your talents are being best used for the state of New Mexico, and that New Mexico is being represented on all those things. But what Commissioner Aguilera just described is an example of one of those. And good news is New Mexicans are being asked to take leadership roles on those things. So I'm sure as you get out there and you plug in, people will be asking you to do things too. So anyway, just wanted to point out that that's something that we can do this spring as you get your feet underneath you. We won't just automatically sign you up for everything Commissioner Ellison did. We can definitely change roles if that's appropriate and suits your skill set. So,
Mr. Chair, in that regard, I certainly welcome the opportunity to serve this commission however I can, and including being involved in those regional or national programs. I have been on the executive board of the Energy Council. Now, that's not a public regulation type organization. It's more a legislative organization, but there are commissioners from other states, and a lot of the information that gets passed on is related to the very work of this commission. And I've talked to Ms. Corey about maybe continuing some association with that organization. And if that's something that you all see some merit to, I would appreciate that. But any suggestions that the two of you have for me to get involved, to receive the education that will serve me well in this role, I would certainly welcome your advice and your experience in that regard. And I know I'm getting inundated with materials right now. New Mexico State University says I have to go through a program here in the next little while, so I'll need to rely on you all to kind of guide me and tell me you have to go to this, we would like you to go to that, or whatever. And so I'm here to help serve you guys as well. So thank you.
thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Nybert? Then I'll just, personal note, commissioners, and if you read the law, it's all about balance. I just want to make sure Commissioner Aguilera is aware the balance has shifted. My understanding is you graduated from the University of New Mexico.
Yes.
2-1.
Go local.
Yeah, so one of these resolutions that we could pass today would be resolving that everyone's a Lobo. See how that vote goes. But so anyway, I'm looking forward to the new year. New year always energizes things, and a new commissioner is energizing the situation here too. So anyway, gratitude to all who participated. We really heard of some good accomplishments. The commission continues to move forward, and thank you to all for that. Does minority egg, you want the last word?
Yes, I do. I also want to acknowledge the work that Commissioner Ellison did in the last couple of years. Really appreciated working with him as well, and really wish him the best.
Yeah, on that note, any objection to adjourning? Seeing none, we are adjourned.